Hi, this is your host Sapil Bhatia and welcome to TFR Let's Talk. Today we have with us Filip Cerny, Product Marketing Manager at Progress. Filip, it's great to have you on the show.
Hello, thank you. It's good to meet you.
It is my pleasure to have you here today. And today's discussion is going to be quite interesting because we are talking about why executive and C levels should, especially, they should use proper term. Some, and this is kind of uh, contradictory to sometimes what we hear in the market. Don't use all the jargons, try to simplify. So I also want to start the discussion on, we are not talking about the journal market, we are just talking about better culture within teams, so that the C level executives, they can connect to their core developers, or their their audience, if I may use the term, not my audience. So first of all, let's talk about the importance of executives using the right, I mean, there is no right or wrong terminology, but using the appropriate technology, what kind of message it sends, versus using terms which, even we use the term, layman's term, layman's language. So talk a bit about the difference of the importance of, especially executive, I mean, developers, they do speak their tech language, but executives sometimes. So talk a bit about that why it's important for executives to have this kind of baseline understanding of IT terminology, not just within their peers, but also with their employees.
I think it's obvious it bridges the communications gap. So, IT personnel, let's say, they are used to live around technology. They it's their bread and butter. So it's easier for them to go as deep as they possibly can. And for, let's say, senior leadership, C-level executives, they basically are not willing to go that deep, or for obvious reasons. So being able to find the common ground, find the consensus is important to get anything done, I think. And so it's once you get that consensus, once you understand, what the, let's say, IT guys are trying to explain you, why they need a certain technology to deploy, for example, it's coming back to those basics and being capable of explaining in layman's terms, so the executives will get it. But at the same time, if the executives go one step further towards the IT guys and understands, what this technology means, what specific acronym means, what impact the technology will have on the overall business, it definitely helps them improve. Helps them improve decision making. It basically increases the confidence in the discussions, and overall, I think, if we talk specifically about security, it fosters a better culture and basically supports a better, more robust cybersecurity posture.
And of course, it depends on terminology from industry to industry. Two different industries may use two different terminologies for the same thing. And let's not even talk about the whole telco. They are known for creating acronyms, and everything is some TSMT. And then you go into that. So their terminology are a bit crazy. But let's talk about the industry in general, and let's also look at it from Progress lens. So if you can also quickly talk a bit about what is Progress all about, so folks will also know why we're talking to you as well.
Progress, we've been on the market for a number of years. We have a wide portfolio of products, but we basically strive to manage, develop, and deploy the business critical applications that your business relies on. Me specifically, I'm more tied to the product called Flowmon, but in technology terms, this is a network detection and response solution, so NDR. And what it does is we basically monitor the traffic, monitor the network traffic, and are capable of recognizing the early indicators of compromise, basically spot some sort of anomalies that may basically develop in future in some sort of cyber attack and prevent it before it has a negative overall impact on the whole business.
Thank you. Now, from this context, let's talk about, we discussed earlier, depending on the industry, there may be different terms. So can you talk about if there are some generic, general, or key IT terminologies that or concept that executives should understand, they have at least the fundamental understanding of these terminology, these concepts, so that when it comes to their whole strategy to not only interact with their teams but their peers, they are most effective. What are those terminologies? What are those concepts?
Let's start with these three basic acronyms. So NDR, EDR, and CM. So these are actually what Gartner key or coined as a like SOC visibility triad, and these are, each of these acronym is like key pillar. And the idea is that if you have these three pillars, that basically each one of them is making up for the other two's shortcomings. So you have a nice multi-layered cybersecurity posture with these three solutions deployed. The number one, as I mentioned, is the network detection and response. It used to be called network behavior analysis. Then later on, it was called network traffic analysis. Now it's called network detection and response. So even these names, these acronyms, even in our industries, it always develops and it continues to change. But the idea is that you are monitor the network traffic and are able to spot anomalies based on the change in the behavior. So you are not relying on signature-based detection. This is the key value, because usually, typically in antivirus on your computer, you can imagine that you have a list of known attacks, and if there is some unknown attacks that is not on the list, then you have no way of detecting that. Typically, for example, and we've seen this in some of our customers, if your antivirus update fails to upload, or for whatever reasons you don't update your antivirus, you might not know all the known threats, and you're making yourself more vulnerable. So with that, I sort of moved to the second pillar, that is the endpoint detection and response. So typically a protection deployed on your endpoints, your laptop, phone, tablets, basically the end devices. So being able of spotting some threats and being able to respond to that on the endpoint level. And lastly, you've got CM, which is acronym stands for security information and event management. And basically that means that you aggregate logs and security data across all the organizations, and you have a centralized view of all the security events. For example, you can feed the data from your endpoint detection and response systems and network detection and response systems to the CM to have a consolidated view.
Of course, when it comes to developers, they are always hanging on in GitHubs, GitLabs, documentation. So we don't have to worry about them keeping up with the terms. But when it comes to executives, what can organizations, what can executive, and what can even the IT teams can do so that these executives, once again, and also some of these, I mean, we are living in a phase where new technologies emerge, especially if you look at the whole cloud native landscape. New technologies emerge on weekly basis, which also means new terminologies. How should executives keep themselves updated so they have a very good grip on not only this terminology but the discussions? So once again, they can navigate things in a better way. So, what is your advice for executives to develop, this understanding and know-how of these terminologies?
So there is a number of ways. I'm the biggest fan of the personal conversations, so I would definitely recommend to engage with your IT leaderships teams, and I'm sure they will be more than happy to talk to you the depths of all the technologies and provide you a solid understanding of what a certain technology is and why do you need it, or where you should deploy it. But there is a number of different ways. Like, we live in the age of information overload, so just spending some time on the internet can be for some enough to get some basic understanding. But many of the vendors also organize some workshops, some trainings, some enablement materials, and number of resources, so you can deep down into that. Or you can sign into some executive training programs to give you an overview of all the technology that is out there, and then decide which way do you want to go deeper. And there are a number of organizations like Gartner, EMA, Forrester, basically analytical companies who provide reports consolidating all that information and provide you market guides and all number of interesting data where basically you can feed on that too.
What are the, when it comes to investing any resource, time, or dollar amount in executives, we always look at, what is the business benefit? So can you also talk about how does a business benefit by having their executives have very good understanding of these terminologies, these concepts, versus, yeah, you can have a better discussion with your teams, versus, it has a business value as well.
This is the life in cybersecurity, or in when you're trying to sell security, you're essentially selling fear, because everyone when an organization's never faced a cyber attack or has everything well maintained, never faced any real challenge, it's hard for them to understand that they need yet another security solution, or they need to invest more in some cybersecurity strategies, because there is no need. But we've seen it in a number of our customers. Unfortunately, when the attack happens, suddenly you realize that you need it, and then it's usually too late. Understanding or properly communicate these impacts before the actual attack happens is important, and that's something that the IT leadership should definitely focus on when talking to executive level and provide some sort of use cases. So, for example, I think every executive is probably well aware that if a cyber attack happens, it has a negative impact on the whole business, from financial side, from the reputational side, and critical data, intellectual property can be stolen and then broadcasted on the wide web. So there is so much negative impact that can happen, and I don't think that many of people actually even realize it, because you have no idea how big it can get. It's like a snowball that keeps getting bigger. And so when you talk to an executive, I think that properly articulated, and I think the internet is full of that. If you bring some of the news articles of the recent cyber attacks and what impact it had on the whole organization, I think that you can just show that and tell your executive leader that imagine if it would be us. We're not ready. We don't have the technology. If this attack would happen to us, we're not protected. That's why we need the technology.
Now, one more thing that is happening right now, though, a lot of layoffs are happening, which has more to do with all the books and financial quarter, versus companies actually don't need those employees. So I don't want to get into that. But we also keep talking about a skill gap. Still shortages also there. So that's what I'm saying. It's a bit ironic, because with all these layoffs, it looked like which is actually during COVID times, a lot of companies, they overhired and now they are trying to shed. And there are a lot of, so I don't want to get into that. This we can just keep it off camera. But can you also talk about how does executive having a good pulse on this terminology, this concept, also helps in not only gaining employees who are actually skilled, but also retaining them? So what role does it play in when companies are building strategies to at least keep the valuable employees while they're also trying to shed their workforce? What is the role there?
So the cybersecurity skill gap or knowledge gap, it's been there since the industry started, I would say, because the technology is rising at an ever increasing rate, and we are just trying to keep up. Finding those skilled people and being able to retain them is definitely a challenge. On the other hand, maybe having those regular conversations with them, understand their challenges, helping them with budget restrictions, and allocating some budget for some tool in cybersecurity terms, maybe a new and better toy they can play with. This might be one way to help them to make them this might be one way to make their job more exciting. They have a new, better forensic tools. They can go deep down, and this is what they need to understand, and they will be excited to work with. But it's not just about one solution, and that will solve all your problem. Basically, I think that specifically in cybersecurity, there is always room for budget when there is a threat hanging around. when everything is calm, it's hard to persuade the security or senior leadership that they need yet another tool. So I think just that ongoing communications and having those conversations to understand, to explain on the use cases why we need a certain solution is something that when you as an employee you think you are hurt, then you have no you know that there is a future for you. You know that you can have another conversations tomorrow. So that's definitely a reason why why those experts would want to retain a job and stay there. But still, I think it's important that we need to keep on learning. We need to educate ourselves, and finding those people who are willing to do that across number of years and decades is definitely a challenge. So we need to start young, start early. We need to engage with universities where we have those young and aspirant students who want to learn the technology, who want to be next cybersecurity experts and so on, to show that it's there is a future in that role.
Philip, thank
Okay.
you so much for joining me today, and of course, talk about the importance of using the right terminologies and why executives should understand these concepts, not only to better run their organizations, but also have a better, very good relationship within the team and with the peer. Thanks for great insights, and I would love to have you folks back on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.